I know this council's been pretty aware of the Lebanon Street, and we had several members come in or are upset about now Lebanon being a pass-through. We did go through a process, and that process then put some traffic calming out there. And there's, according to our own policy, that traffic calming was there for a certain amount of time. And then the next step was there's a vote of the people in that area to whether it would go permanent or not. But if it goes permanent, there was a cost involved for it to go permanent. It had to be 60% vote, and then there's a cost involved. And it sounds like anecdotally, maybe that a lot of people were voting no on that because they didn't want to pay the dollars to do that. And I just feel like that policy needs to be looked at. I mean, if 60% of your population really thinks something has happened, but they say no because they can't afford to do it, doesn't feel like a very good policy, in my opinion. I don't know where the rest of the council's at on this, but I'm feeling a little weird about that circumstance. Scott?
So the Transportation Committee did have an extensive discussion about this specific issue as well as the policy. I believe the cost to property owners was $200. Our policy basically says we will split the cost depending on what the traffic calming device is. And the policy is in place because it recognizes the fact that traffic is sometimes localized. And so it begs the broader question from a policy level is this a problem for the entire community, or is it just limited to that neighborhood? And I think the halfway position is the city would pay for half of it, and then the neighborhood who benefits directly from that traffic calming pays for the other half. And so that's what that policy has been in place for a number of years.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if I totally agree with that policy, but Councilmember Greenstein.
That just brings up a question on that policy. When you say the neighborhood pays for half, city pays for half, what defines that neighborhood? So is it the houses that are necessarily on, directly on that street, or what defines the neighborhood?
Yeah, depending on the traffic situation, the boundaries are identified. We had a similar situation in the Panorama area, and it typically is that street that is fronting or having the traffic issue. It's typically a speeding issue or a cut through issue, and so it is defined by that street, more or less.
But here's the problem. The reason why this happens is usually there's a change in land use, right? In this case, Lebanon Street went in. And so now people are from outside that area are now using Lebanon to cut through. It's not the fault of the people who live on Lebanon Street that's happening. It's a change in land use that happens. That's the overall community. And so now you're saying, okay, those who live on Lebanon Street, you're going to have to cover this because we changed your land use on you. Same thing.
This is probably something we should have a deeper policy discussion on rather than here, though. I would think.
I agree. I couldn't just go by. I just can't let things. When I see that,
I'm with you. We should have a deeper discussion on it because.
Well, let me add. We did a deep dive into this, and actually, the extension of Lebanon Street wasn't definitive. It actually negatively impacted the neighborhood, and so when you started looking at the traffic volumes and the speeds, it wasn't validated by data, and so that was some of the analysis that was done. And to the credit of the Transportation Committee, we probably met on this 4 different times. And at the one point, we didn't get enough votes. We actually went out again and asked people to vote and to make that 6% threshold. What
I would recommend is, before you get going further, Scott, what I recommend is you just give a quick debrief to the council on this work session so you can explain this to us all, because there's only 3 people on the Transportation Committee. I probably will agree with your reasoning here, but I need to hear it in person. I agree this is not the place to do it. It's fair enough.
So we'll schedule for a future discussion.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
So this corridor did not even meet the minimum standards to advance this for consideration. The council made an exception because of how vocal a few people were. So this didn't even meet the minimum criteria to begin with. The Lebanon extension had absolutely zero influence on it. And the total cost, is $200. So in my humble opinion, the process worked.